So, Namaskar, welcome to the Soorya festival. This is the first installment of the Upanishad talks during the Soorya festival, uh, which will continue for many more days with lot of cultural activities. So, today and tomorrow we have the what happened? Today and tomorrow we have the Upanishads, and this time I can't remember what I did last year for Surya Festival. It was live. I mean, I was sitting down and talking. But now with this COVID situation, we have to be online. So this time I am going to do the Ishavasya Upanishad. It's a very important Upanishad. Yogis have to wear glasses too. So the Ishavasya Upanishad derives its name from the first line, Isha or Ishavasyam, and it belongs to the Vajasneyi school of the Yajurveda. And the Vajasneya Samhita has 40 parts, and the last part of it is this Upanishad, the Ishavasya Upanishad. It's not a big Upanishad, it's a small Upanishad. It's a little bigger than the Mandukya. It's 18 verses. So I'm going to start, but before we start, we need to have an understanding of the word Upanishad. Upanishad were those parts of the Vedas. Remember that Upanishads are included in the Vedas. When you say Vedas, it means Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka and Upanishad. Now, you know the Samhita chantings, Gayatri is part of the Samhita and so on. Then the Brahmanas are basically ceremonial, what is to be done by the householder, how to light his fire and carry on and so on. Then come the Aranyakas. Now the Aranyaka part of the Vedas were studied in the forest. That's why they are called Aranyaka, Aranya. And when you look into the Aranyakas, many of the Upanishads are part of the Aranyakas, though generally they form the end of the Aranyaka chapter. From there the Upanishads start. So it's all together called the Vedas. Some people have mistaken notion that only the Samhitas are Vedas. No, Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka and Upanishad. Now since the Upanishad comes at the end of the Veda, it's called Vedanta. Vedanta. So when you say Vedanta, basically is the material in the Upanishads. And the Upanishads are those deeply metaphysical, though logical and rational and philosophical texts which describe and try to explain the Mahavakyas which occur in the Vedas. 1. Aham Brahmasmi. 2. Prajnanam Brahma. 3. I am Atma Brahma. 4. Tattvamasi. These are the 4 Mahavakyas. Now the Upanishads attempt to explain this word. Like if you say Tattvamasi, you are that. First, who are you and what is that? Things like that. So they are intensely, I would say, cerebral, but the aim is to go beyond cerebration. And the Upanishads say the most intelligent soon realizes the limitations of his intellect, his or her intellect, and then goes beyond. So that is the aim of the Upanishads. Now, couple of other points I wanted to say. One point. Yeah, okay, that's it. So, on the Prasthanatraya, which is the curriculum for the study of Vedanta, Upanishads, Brahma Sutra and the Bhagavad Gita, 3. So, we are doing the Upanishad now. As I said, it is from the Yajurveda, second Veda. Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvana Veda. I think I did the Keno Upanishad, which belongs to the Samaveda last time, if I remember right, or maybe the Mandukya, I am not so sure. Anyway, So, every Upanishad, now okay, now what is the meaning of the word Upanishad? Upa, Ni and Shad. Upa means to sit close by. These were taught in the forest hermitages when there was no online, all these mechanical things we have, no speakers, no microphones. So the students sat close to the teacher and it was taught only to one who was qualified, not like now. That doesn't mean all who are listening are qualified to understand the Upanishad. Those days, the teacher, the father taught the son, or the teacher taught the student when he found that the student was ready for it, apta, prepared, ready. Therefore, they are also called rahasya because it was not taught to everybody. It was not taught to everybody not because it belonged to a sect or a caste, because everybody was not ready to receive it, to understand it. That's why. So, this is the Upanishad. So, the word, therefore, rahasya means you don't shout the rahasya, you talk softly. Now, to hear what is being said softly, you have to sit near. So, upa means near, close by. Upavasa means traveling to the nearness. Upa, not fasting, that is one kind of upavasa. So, upa means to sit close. Upa also means to establish a rapport with the teacher, close, not CLOSE, close, but close together. And therefore, upa means to sit close. It also means to go as close as possible to the ultimate reality. Why close? Why can't you go into the... If you see the ultimate reality, you no longer exist. So, as long as you have an ego and you exist, you can only go as close as possible. It's like trying to go and look at the sun, or trying, like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, the salt doll, trying to see how deep the ocean is by going into it. There is no salt doll. So, all you can say is go as close as possible. That is upa. I leave ni for the time being. It means Upanishad altogether means, the whole thing means that the Rishi sat and the student sat down near him. Probably he sat under a tree with a platform and the student sat down and listened to him. So, upa is over. Let's come to shad first. So, shad means literally to sit down. Sit is shad. Adi Shankara has given a scholar that he was, is given a little different meaning to shad. He says shad is to loosen up, shake up. So, what does it shake? It shakes you out of ignorance. What is ignorance? To think what is real is unreal and what is unreal is real. This is ignorance, root. So, Shankara says shad means to shake you up from this sleep of ignorance, this wrong understanding. It also means to shake up our ordinary rational mind, which depends entirely on the sense organs to understand the reality, which are limited. The inputs are limited. So, this could be limited. So, shad means to shake up, to put, I would say, to put it upside down. Urdhvamoolamata shakam. Roots go up and the branches are down below. Shad. Now, ni indicates the position in which the student is sitting. So, Rishi is sitting on the tree, near the tree, under the tree. Someone in Chennai, if he hears that, he will say the Rishi is sitting on top of the tree. Under the tree on a platform, and the students are sitting down. So, the attitude of sitting to receive is the word ni. The Hindi word niche is derived from the root ni, niche. So, it also means that if you need to receive anything, the vessel that receives should be down. Can you pour anything into a vessel which is like this? It has to be down. So, that is the meaning of receive, ni. And the vessel should be empty. You can't pour into a vessel that is full. So Upanishad. So this much if you understand, you almost understood the Upanishad. Now like all Upanishads, each Upanishad has an invocation. The Ishavasya Upanishad has the famous invocation, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamaduchyate Purnasya Purnamataya Purnameva Vasishyate. This is the invocation, Chanti mantra, the Ishavasya. It means Purnamada, that is complete, that from which all this world has come. This entire universe emerged. By nature, it is complete. But it doesn't stop there. Purnamidam, this world where we are, is also complete, but we don't see it complete, we see only the incomplete. And the entire attempt of life and evolution is to complete that which is incomplete. I'm alone, I need to get married. I'm married, I need to take sannyas. I don't have a child, I need to have a child. I don't have a house, and the whole process of civilization, evolution, is this trying to attain this completeness, when the Upanishad says you are already complete. Purnamada Purnamidam, this is also complete. That means your essential nature is none other than that completeness. Therefore, the Upanishads Mahavakya Tattvamasi. You are that. If you are that, and if that is complete, you have to be complete yourself, in your inner self. So, then Purnat Purnamaduchyate, from that completeness has come this completeness. Purnasya Purnamataya Purnameva Vasishyate. From that only this completeness has come, and yet that completeness remains complete. Nothing can be subtracted from it. The nearest you can go is Einstein's physics, law of physics, where energy can neither be created nor destroyed. The Upanishad says that energy is not just a physical energy, it's consciousness, and it is complete. You cannot take out anything from it, you can't put back anything into it, it's always self-sufficient and complete. Purna. So Purna is the word. Well, the Buddhists use the word Shunya. Now Shunya also doesn't mean nothing, it means that which cannot be described, rather. Because they also say the whole world has come from Shunya. If it was Shunya, how can this entire thing come from that? So it's not, it's something which cannot be described through words, it cannot be understood by the mind, as the Upanishads declare, yad vachana abhyutitam, that which words cannot explain, and manasana manyute, which the ordinary mind cannot conceive, so they call it Shunya. But the Vedas, the Upanishads prefer to call it Purna, completeness. Okay, having said this much, we start the first verse of the Upanishad. Ishavasyamidam sarvam yat kimcha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita ma gritha kasya svidhanam. Ishavasyamidam sarvam. All this in this world is pervaded by the Supreme Isha, by the Purna. Everything here is pervaded, and everything in this Jagat is pervaded, which means all that moves, everything that moves in this moving world is enveloped or pervaded by the Supreme Isha. In fact, the word Jagat in Sanskrit is derived from the word Jagatyam, that means that which moves. If you look carefully, there is nothing in this universe that doesn't move. Nothing. Even this wood table you think is not moving, but inside all activity is going on. Molecules, atoms, electrons, everything moves, although it looks solid. Things decay because they move and finish off after some time. And as far as the world is concerned, the earth moves, the solar system moves, the Milky Way moves, seasons move, time moves. You can't stop time, and tide waits for no man. It's known, say, everything moves. And what about the mind? I don't even have to say that. It is always moving. It can't stand still. So this movement, because of this Jagatyam, it's called Jagat, this world. And the Purna is the Jagannath. When there is a hurricane and everything moves, in the middle there is a silent zone called the eye of the cyclone. It's that which sucks in everything, but it is silent. It's this. When the wheel moves, there is a center. If the center also starts moving, then the wheel can't move like that. Center is steady and the wheel moves. That center is the Isha, which pervades everything that moves. Ishavasya idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat. That means in this moving world, everything that moves, seasons, time, age, everything is pervaded by that Supreme Being. Now the next, tena thyaktena bhunjita ma gritha kasya sviddhanam. Therefore, you see, normally what are we taught from school? Gather things so that we can enjoy, rejoice. Upanishad says, tena tyaktena bhunjita, let go and rejoice. Don't hold on to anything. Now, letting go is different from giving up. You may have something, but you should know that any time it can disappear or I can disappear, therefore it's not permanent. So just give enough attention required, not more than that. Let go and rejoice. If you let go, you can really rejoice, but nobody will let go. That's the whole problem. Physically, people might let go, the mind, they will not let go. So, let go and rejoice. Why? Ma gridha kasya sviddhanam. Whose wealth is this anyway? It's all pervaded by the Isha. I am here today and gone tomorrow. Whose is it? When I am gone, where does my house go? To somebody else. Where does my money go? To somebody else. So this wealth is the wealth that belongs to the entire universe, not mine. I am sharing it temporarily like a pawn. This life a checkerboard of nights and days. It's destiny with men for, what is that thing called? Pawns plays. Changes, checks and slays, and one by one in the closet lays. This is life. Prabhayataho markhaya. So, relax, let go and rejoice. Whose wealth is this anyway? If you look at it that way, you will be happy to see trees and plants and everything. You don't have to own it. See what I mean? The problem is not enjoying the world. The problem is when you want to hold it. It's beautiful to have roses in the garden. Trouble starts when I want to pluck it and put it in my pocket, which means I don't want the other guy to pluck it. Otherwise, roses are beautiful where they stand. They say that George Bernard Shaw was very fond of flowers. So a journalist went to him one day to interview him. She couldn't find a single flower in her house, in his house, in the vase, nowhere. She said, I heard that you are very fond of flowers. I don't see a single. He opened the window. He said, see the flowers in the garden? Yes, I love them as they are. I also love children. I don't cut their heads and put them in vases around me. So, in a way, I think he was kind of a rishi with a pipe, but whatever. So, tena tyaktena is a beautiful principle. It's also to make sure that you don't carry all the unpleasant feelings and things from today to tomorrow. Let go. You might have slapped me 25 years ago. I can't forget the slap. Slap is finished and gone. Even the guy who was slapped might have died. I'll carry the slap in my head, saying, oh, he slapped me that day. What a terrible thing. If he is not alive, I must slap his son or daughter. If you can, when the slap actually does not exist. It's gone, done, finished. It's in the mind. There's a tape playing on and on and on. If we can understand this, and when you go to sleep at night, open the window and throw it and go to sleep, next day morning, can we get up with a fresh mind? This is letting go and rejoicing. If this continues for some time, you will actually experience the Isha, which is all providing. So, it is both a metaphysical, practical and a psychological process. Let go and rejoice, because this whole world belongs to the Supreme. And in fact, in my true essence, Purnamidam, I am also that Supreme. So, it is all my garden in some way. Let go and rejoice. Tena tyaktena bhunjita. Now, the second sloka is very nice. Kurvanneveha karmani jijivisheta shatam samaha evam tvai nanyate tosti na karma lipyate nare. Now, having said this, the Upanishad is not preaching that therefore you should leave everything and go away and do no work, become lazy and say, oh, this world is not there, but I am. No, they are not talking about retirement, they are talking about work. So the Upanishad, Kurvanneveha karmani, always performing works here. Jiji visheta shatam sama, you can live for 100 years here performing all activities. How? If you remember and understand the first sloka. If you understand that Ishavasya midam sarvam, Supreme Reality pervades everywhere, and if I know that how to let go and rejoice, then I can work and live in this world for 100 years. No problem. They are not saying run away. Evam tvai nanyato tosti. There is no other way than this, my friend. To live in this world without karma adhering to you even a little bit, if you understand the first sloka. So, evam tvai nanyate tosti, there is no other way, my friend. Not friend is not that I am saying. Na karma lipyate nare. If you live according to the first sloka, then you work for 100 years and live in this world. There is no other way. You have to live in this world. No karma will stick to you. So, it is a Upanishad of action. Anyway, Upanishads are talking about now, not about after death, will go and what happens and so on. That is the second sloka. I did it fast. Now comes the third sloka. Asuryanamate loka andena tamasa vrita tamste pratyabhigachanti eke cha atmahano janaha. Demonic, verily, are those world enveloped in blinding darkness, and to them go after death those people who are slayers of the self. Eke cha atmahano janaha, those who slay the self, which means those who consider the self as differentness. Each person has a different self and do not understand that the real self is only one. And therefore, to live with the understanding of oneself is the way to live in spiritual world. One who does not understand this is here called the slayer of the self. This is not referring to slaying the lower self. It is referring to slaying the idea that you are the ultimate self. Anyone who lives that way goes into worlds of enveloping darkness. Now, it need not be after death also. Even now, they live in darkness because they see everything as different and not as one. So, such people are called Atmajano. Atma cha Atmahano jana, those who slay the greater self go into worlds of darkness. Now, the fourth sloka is trying to describe the Isha, the Supreme Being, in contradicting words to make sure that we are not talking about something that is physical. Suppose the Supreme Self is there and I am here, I need to go. But what happens if the Supreme Self is Ishavasya midam sarvam, pervading everywhere? Where do I go? Suppose it's there and I am here, I need to go. It's a linear movement. What if it is everywhere? How do I go there? I can't go there. I have to stop all going. When all going of the mind ceases at rest, then it is there. Now therefore they are trying to describe the essential self, about which they said layers of the self, who do not understand this. The essential self is described in ways in which it is proved that it is not an ordinary thing like a material. Here is a Sloka 4. Anejad ekam manaso javiyo nayanat deva apnuvan purvamarshat tadvavato anyan hatyeti tishtat tasmin napo matarishva dadhati. That spirit, that supreme Isha, the supreme being is unmoving, and yet it is swifter than the mind. Normally the mind is the one that keeps moving all the time, swift. 1 second it is here, next second it is somewhere else. Here is something which is swifter than the mind, so that even though it is unmoving, it is swifter than the mind cannot grasp it. That is the example given here. And what else? Anejad ekam manaso javiyo naina deva apnuvan purvamarshat. The senses do not reach it. The deva here means the senses, the sensory organs. Indriyas, lord of the devas is Indra, and the Indriyas are the 5 senses. So these senses cannot reach it. Why? Because it is ever ahead of them. Before the senses see, it is gone. In the Kena Upanishad, at the end of the Kena Upanishad, there is a beautiful story after describing abstract principles and so on. The Kena Upanishad says that once the supreme reality, the supreme being, decided to pull down the ego of the powers of nature like Agni, Vayu, the Indriyas, Indra and all that. So what did he do? He appeared as an Yaksha. Yaksha simply means a spiritual being. Nobody can define an Yaksha. And stood there. So Agni, Vayu and Indra, they were looking at him. They wanted to know who is this, what is this Yaksha standing there, unknown entity, never felt anything like this before. Agni said, wait, I will find out, because he is the most powerful. So he went, rushed, and he wanted to ask the Yaksha, who are you? Before he could ask the Yaksha asked him, who are you? Agni said, well, I am Jatavedas, I am Agni, the great fire. I can burn down anything. One spark from me can set the whole world on fire. And if I burn, I don't diminish. I am the most powerful deity who the Vedas worship, the priests worship every day. I am for all sacrifices I need to be present. I am the most powerful deity Agni. I can burn everything in this world. Yaksha took a blade of grass, that unknown Yaksha, put it before Agni and said, burn this. Agni tried all the tricks in his trade. He couldn't break that blade of grass. He was confused. He came back. Then Vayu said, hey, let me go and see, brother. So Vayu went. Even before Vayu asked him who he was, the Yaksha asked him, who are you? And Vayu said, I am the wind, the air, the king of all winds, of all breezes. I am also the Mukhya Prana, the breath that moves in the human body. I can blow up anything on. I am the hurricane, I am the cyclone, I am the typhoon. I can blow anything away. So the Yaksha said, okay. Same Trina, the same little blade of grass was there, which Agni tried to burn and could not. He said, blow. So Vayu summoned up all his energy and blew. Couldn't move even a little bit of that blade of grass. He confused, came back. He said, I don't know who this Yaksha is here. You went, you couldn't burn, I went, I couldn't blow. So Indra, the lord of the senses, the lord of the devas actually, he said, I'll go. Indra went. Indra went, there was no Yaksha to be seen there. He looked, he couldn't even see who he was, where he was. So he was looking very puzzled and confused. These three, what is that movie? Three Idiots. They were standing there and looking, what is this? What the hell? That's the time when suddenly from abstract to the concrete, there appears Parvati, the daughter of the Himavan, the Himalayas. Bhashobhamanam, very beautiful she appears. And she says, fools, the Yaksha who you went to boast to and tried to test is because of him that you have all your powers. Without him you won't have any. He is the essence of your being. He is the all-pervading supreme reality. Who do you think you are trying to test? And then they understood. So why I am referring to this story is because here it says, Anejat ekam manaso javyo. It is unmoving, but it is swifter than the mind. Nainat deva apnuvan purvamarshat. The senses can never reach it because it is always ahead of them. Indra couldn't reach it. He is the lord of the five senses, Indrayas. Tad dhavato anyan atyeti, though itself standing still. Tishtat tasmin apo matarishva dadhati, though itself standing still, it outstrips all those who run. It's a strange metaphor actually. In it, the all-pervading air, Matarishva, supports the activities of all beings. The all-pervading prana in him or in it. Here word used is it. So please note, the supreme reality is neither male nor female. It. Not he, no, it. So this supreme reality, tad dhavato anyanatyeti, though itself standing still, it outstrips those who run. Tishtat tasmin apo matarishva dathati. In it, the all-pervading air supports the activities of all living beings. That is the supreme Isha. So how do we find the Isha who runs faster than me, who runs faster than the mind, who stands still but outpaces everybody else and everything else, and who is that which supports this whole universe with the breath of life by stopping running? No other way. When the mind stops running, understanding the futility of reaching out and retracts, then in that retraction it is realized. Fifth, here again, our contradictory statement, not to fool us and not play on words, was to show that we are dealing with something which is not a material object as we know it. And the fifth sloka is Tadde jati, tanne jati, taddure tadvadantike, tad adharasya sarvasya tadu sarvasyasya bahyata. It moves. Tadde jati. It moves not. Tanne jati. Somebody will think the rishis are trying to confuse us. They have nothing else to say. See the words tad jati, tan. In English it doesn't sound so good. Tad jati, tanne jati. It moves and it moves not. Tad dhure, tad patantike. It is far and yet it is so near. Somebody said it is nearer to you than your own neck vein. Then, tad antarasya sarvasya, it is within all this, within everything that is. Tadu sarvasyasya bahyata, yet it is also outside all this. Now we are faced with a difficulty. Something is inside, cannot be outside. Something is outside, cannot be inside. Something that is moving cannot be standing still. And something that is far cannot be near. So we are dealing with something completely different, not anything material. We are dealing with that which can be touched when the mind understands that it is something which cannot be classified into that which moves, that which does not move. All our ordinary classifications based on our so-called rational, logical brain come to an end. Tadde jati, tanne jati, it moves and it moves not. Tad dure, tadvat antike, it is far and it is near. Tad antarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasyasya bahyata. It is inside everything, all this, and yet it is also outside all this. So how else can we describe an all-pervading Isha? We can't. We are not suggestive of the unbalanced Rishi writing. It's struggling to describe that which cannot be described through language. That's what he's trying to do. Yet vachana. In fact, in one Upanishad it says, chakshusha chakshu. It says, one minute. Shrotrasya shrotram manaso mana yad vajo vajam sahu pranasya prana chakshusha chakshur adimuchya dhira pratyasma loga tamrita bhavanti. It says, Rishi says, it is the eye of the eye and the ear of the ear and the mind of the mind, knowing which the ancients became immortal. It also says, I don't know how I can teach this to you. It's so difficult to make you understand. So, it can only be described in such contradictions. There is no other way to describe it. Vedanta Deshika said something, but we shall not get into that here. Now, so if that is so, is it futile to try to understand it? Or is it okay to try and understand that which is difficult to convey? And if you have to understand that which is difficult to convey, we need to look at it different from all the modes that we know of. If it is inside, you can go in and look. If it is outside, you can travel. If it is inside and outside and everywhere, all pervading. If it moves and does not move, it is near and far. What do? Sit. Upanishad. Sit and move closer by understanding this fact and telling the mind, don't try any of your acrobatics and circuses. Relax. Let go and rejoice. Then you will see Ishavasya sarvam. So, now come the sixth sloka. This sloka is somewhat practical. It says, only those people who are like this can understand these things which we have tried to describe with contradictions because we cannot define. What is that? Today you cannot even define quantum physics actually. We live in the state where the most important principle of quantum physics is uncertainty. But we like to be certain about our life. The Rishi is saying, understand the fact that everything is uncertain. Relax. Now, what kind of person will understand this teaching? yastu sarvani bhutani atmani eva anupashyati sarva bhuteshu cha atmanam tato na vijugupsate. He who sees all beings in his own self and his own self in all beings, such a being has no revulsion of any kind towards anybody or anything. Why? By reason of such a view. Yastu sarvani bhutani. He who sees all beings in his own self, yastu, eva anupashyati, atmani eva anupashyati, and his own self in all beings, his own atman. Sarva bhuteshu cha atmanam tato na vijugupsate, seeing the whole universe as oneself, such a person has no revulsion to anybody. Here, from the philosophical, metaphysical, we are jumping into something psychological. It says when you develop that attitude, it's not simply enough to have speculated metaphysics. When you understand that that Supreme Self is all pervading, Ishavasya midam sarvam. If it is all pervading, then that self is there in someone else and also in me. So the moment I start recognizing that that self which is in me is also in someone else, and therefore there is no difference between us actually, whether they know it or not. When I begin to understand that that Supreme Self pervades everything, and all beings are my own self, and myself is all beings, there is no revulsion or hatred of any kind. Now for that, first the attitude has to be developed. Second, tena tyakten, let go and rejoice. Don't carry all the hurts and wounds given by somebody to, I'm talking now practically, in your head, throw it off. If you don't throw it off, you will not be able to consider the other as your own self. And you won't be able to see your own self in the others. This is the psychological understanding which is connected to the metaphysical. So the Upanishads are not merely metaphysical musings. They are metaphysics connected to the individual so that the individual can actually discover the truth. This is the Upanishad. The seventh sloka is therefore Yasmin Sarvani Bhutani Atmaiva Bhut Vijanata Tatra Ko Moha Kah Shokaha Ekatvam Manupashyata. When to one who knows all beings have become one's own self, one with his own self, what delusion can persist for such a person? What sorrow can there be for him who sees this oneness? You know how sorrow comes? I am quite happy. I have a house, I have a wife. Then I find my neighbor has a bigger house and a more beautiful wife. Then the whole problem starts. But if I see his self and myself as one, the Rishi is asking, then what delusion can happen to you? When you see everything as the self and not consider things as different and separate, you see everything as one, how can there be delusion? Delusion comes with separation. I and he, or I and she, or I and you. When there is only I, which is also another way saying there is only you, then there is no delusion. What delusion can there be? There is no mind fighting against anything. There is no, for practical purposes you might have some dramas going on, but deep down nothing. There is no revulsion towards anybody because Yasmin Sarvani Bhutani Atmaiva Bhutvijanata, when to one who knows all beings have become one's own self, Tatra ko moha. What will he desire when he has touched the Purna, which is all pervading and which is always in the rejoicing mood? What delusion can he have? And if he has no delusion, kah shokaha, what sorrow can he have? Ekatvam manupashyata, one who sees this oneness. So what the Rishi is trying to say is that sorrow and delusion begin with duality. And there is one, there is neither sorrow nor delusion. There is when you see one. So therefore it harks back to the first sloka, Ishavasya midam sarvam kincha jagatyam jagat. There is one supreme being that pervades everything. And that supreme being, the Upanishads have declared, is Prajnanam Brahma. It's of the nature of consciousness. I am Atma Brahma. It is my own self. There is no difference. And that is the reality which is you and not what you think you are. Tat Tvamasi. Now believe me, understanding all this, you can still live in this world and perform your duty. This is the second sloka of the same Upanishad. Kurvanneveha karmani jijivisheta shatam samaha. For 100 years you can live doing your work if you understand this properly and rejoice actually. Evam tvai nanyate tosi, there is no other way for you, my friend. Na karma lipyate nare, all the karmas you do, but nothing will rub off on you. You can operate 4 cameras and nothing will rub off on you. You are free. You can rejoice. Ha ha. So, how wonderful. The 8th sloka is Saparyagachukram akayam avranam asnaviram shuddham apapavidham kavir manishi paribhu swayambhu yatha tat yatho rithan vyadak shashvatibhya samabhya. That supreme reality, Saparyagachukram, has filled all. And he is radiant. Not only that, his chukram, he is radiant. Saparyagachukram akayam is bodiless. He has no body, that supreme reality. Avranam, invulnerable. You can't wound him with weapons or kill him with death, which is my own self, remember that. Don't think somewhere else. Avranam. Asnaviram, he has no sinews. Shuddham is pure. Apapavidam, untouched by sins, untouched by evil. It's a positive message. Don't think I'm a sinner. I have heard in your true reality there is no evil can touch you in reality. And Kavir Manishi, he is the Kavi, the seer, one who sees. Kavir Manishi Paribhu, all pervading. Swayambhu, self-existent. No need for any reason to exist. No cause, causeless cause. Swayambhu. Yatha tat yatho rithan. This self-existent reality has distributed over the years into the objects according to their natures. Vyadadat chashvatibhya samabhya. Equally distributed among all objects having different svabhavas while he remains pure consciousness. This is the supreme reality, the Isha who has filled all, who is radiant, bodiless, invulnerable, devoid of muscles and sinews, pure, untouched by evil, the seer, the thinker, the all-pervading self-existent, this Supreme has distributed itself through endless years into the objects according to their natures. So therefore what it means is, even if the objects have different natures, in the ultimate reality, all that actually is the essence is that Supreme Isha. Ishavasyamidam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam. Needs repeating. Tena tyaktena bhunjita magridha kasya svidhanam. That is the 8th sloka. Now the 9th I will read, but we will explain tomorrow from 9th to the 18th. We have only 9 to 18, how many? 9 slokas. So, now here is a very important, that's why I can't start explaining now and finish. It's about ignorance and knowledge. Andham tama pravishanti yo vidyayam upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yahu vidyayam rataha. Andham tama pravishanti yo avidyayam upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yahu vidyayam rataha. Let me translate literally. Into blinding darkness enter those who worship ignorance. Correct. We all will agree. We are not in blinding darkness because if you worship ignorance, you will enter in blinding darkness. But I am not ignorant, I have knowledge. Therefore, I am not entering into blinding darkness. That we would think so. When you read the first part, Andam tama pravishantiyo avidyayam upasate, into blinding darkness enter those who worship ignorance. Now what happens? Tado bhuya yavate tamo yahu vidyayam rata. And those who delight in knowledge enter into still greater darkness, as it were. What do you say? Now what do we do? That we are, everybody says, yeah, I understand. I am not ignorant. You know? All those who worship ignorance enter into great blinding darkness. Fine. So I am not in that category. Then I have knowledge. Then the Upanishad gives one big sledgehammer blow on the head saying, Tado bhuya yavate tamo yahu vidyayam rata. And those who delight in knowledge enter into still greater darkness, as it were. Now this requires to be carefully understood. So I don't think I should go into this fully now. All I want to say is here is a contrast. What we think is different from what is. What we think is that if you are ignorant, you are in darkness. If you have knowledge, you are above darkness, you are in light. The Upanishads is trying to say, look man, if you worship ignorance, you are going to die. Agreed. But if you are worshipping knowledge only, then you are entering into greater darkness. Now here, what is this knowledge that they are talking about, and what is this ignorance? That the two words of avidya and vidya have to be explained. For that, we in 2 minutes we can't. So today we need to end it. Right? So there is an Upanishad called, there are many Upanishads, principal Upanishads. There is one Upanishad which is the Mundaka Upanishad, not Mandukya, Mundaka. Now the Mundaka Upanishad is basically, it means shaven headed. It's meant for sannyasis. Those who are Mundan, not Punjabi Munda, Mundan. So the Deepu showed me 5 minutes, so I'm going. So in the Mundaka Upanishad, a student, it must be somewhere here, Mundaka, let me see 1 minute. You can exceed 1 or 2 minutes, it's okay. Mundaka, कहाँ गया भाई मुंडका? 669. Mundaka Upanishad from the Atharva Veda. What happens here? It says that the knowledge of Brahman, which Brahma taught to Atharvan, and Atharvan in olden days taught Angirasa, he then taught in turn to Satyavaha, son of Bharadwaja, and the son of Bharadwaja to Angirasa, both higher and lower knowledge. Atharvaneyam. So there is something discussed here which is called higher and lower knowledge. So what happens in third sloka of Mundaka? Saunako havai mahashalo angirasam viddhivat upasanaha paprachaha kasminnu bhagavo vijñate sarvamidam vijñatam bhavati iti. Shaunaka, the great householder, not a sannyasin, pointing out, duly approached Angirasa, the great rishi, and asked him, Kasminnu bhagavo vijñate sarvamidam vijñatam bhavati iti. He asked him, Venerable Sir, through that being known, what is it that which when known, all this becomes known? Is there something which when we know, we don't need to know anything else, everything is known? And then there is an answer to that. Tasmai sahovacha dvividye vedavye itiha sma yad brahma vido vadanti parache aparaja. That means there are two kinds of knowledge. He said to him, he said, all knowers of Brahman declare, the knowledge of the truth declare, there are two kinds of knowledge. One is Paravidya and the other is Aparavidya, higher and lower knowledge. So we will, tomorrow when we deal with this sloka, we will go into it because it is 7:30 now. 1 hour is more than enough. If I go for another 5 minutes, you will probably go into Shushupti. So we should stop here now. Thank you very much. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Tomorrow I am back here at 6:30 to do the next part of the Ishavasya Upanishad. I hope you enjoyed it. Let go and rejoice. Tena tyaktena bhunjita. Om Shanti Shanti.